So, 42 days ago, I made the decision to discontinue eating all refined sugar. I stopped all refined sugar. And I want to tell you something. At day 42 right now, I'm learning things that I didn't really expect to learn, frankly. It's not that it got easier. It did get a little easier because once you say that you're not going to do X or Y or Z, then you avoid that. But I think the part that is really unexpected is the fact that I'm having to negotiate with myself a little bit because my emotional eating has picked up some. And I think that's always the problem is that in the past, I've used a little sweet treat if I'm having some issues around my emotional kind of feelings. And I don't think that's the way to go. I think that's where I'd struggle. But I didn't expect it to show up as frequently as it has. And I didn't expect that because the sugar is gone. I don't think you understand what you really doing when you take away the thing that you get a little pleasure from. And for me, I say this as somebody who's spent my entire life challenged with eating issues, but I've spent a good bit of the past years as a health psychologist. And nothing really has prepared me for the process of what it is when you start to decide that you're going to stop sugar and what is not there when you're feeling no hunger. Yet what's happening in your mind? I'm always one of those people after you eat dinner to have a little treat, but now I'm working with myself to eat fruit, or I'm looking at ways to have things like I'm looking at this recipe that's a cheesecake made from yogurt, a few tablespoons of maple syrup and blueberries to see if that's something that I'm not even certain I'm going to do that. Now at 42 days, this isn't really about a quit sugar episode. There's lots of people who talk about that. And actually, I have about another good bit because I'm going to 90 days. And this is not about willpower because willpower just kind of I don't know. It just runs out. I'm not sure what's sustaining me to the finish line or what that's supposed to be. But some of the things that I'm learning is to be more forgiving towards myself and my feelings. And that what am I going to do for the next 40 some odd days so that I can get to 90 and see what it feels like? I think that's really the goal. Let's see where I go and how do I keep dealing with this voice in my head that says I want sugar when truthfully my body doesn't need sugar at all, right? It's interesting how we really become socialized to have sweets and sugar. And also too, it's all around us. So I'm MC. I'm here every week. This is Healthy by George. I'm Mary Catherine. I'm a health psychologist. I went back to school to become a psychologist in health and wellness because it fascinated me, frankly. And it makes me very curious about ourselves and how we work with behavior to change and modify and make ourselves the very best version of who we are. And especially if we're wanting to play the long game, right? We want to live into our 80s and 90s and be the very best version of ourselves and not someone who is really barely hanging on to life. That's the key, right? I don't want that. I want to be vibrant and really figure out. So now join me. Stay to the end and let's talk about what I've learned this 42 days in. And I think it's really quite interesting to see what's in the back of my head and that how 21 days doesn't really make a habit. I looked at this very interesting book called Psycho-Cybernetics, written by the plastic surgeon in 1960, Maxwell Maltz. And what he noticed is that his patients seemed to take roughly about 3 weeks to adjust to the changes that happened in their face in the mirror. And he would write down that is a rough kind of minimum area for our old mental image to dissipate, a minimum of 21 days. But I think this is not about that because it's not a habit. Letting go of what it is sugar in our society, because I'm going to tell you, it's amazing to understand what the USDA reports that 80 to almost 85% of what's in our grocery store has added sugar in it. So I think we really have to understand that, truthfully, if we really want to move our behavior to another place so that we're really living intentionally, there's a study worth knowing about that came out of the University of College of London. Philippa Lally and her colleagues published in the European Journal of Social Psychology in 2010. She worked with 96 volunteers and each picked one new eating or drinking or behavioral activity, and they decided to do it daily for 12 weeks so that every single day they would rate how automatically it felt to do the choice that they were moving forward without thinking about it. So the average time to reach an automatic response to whatever behavior that this person was choosing to adopt without thinking about it was 66 days. 66 days. That's very interesting that the average, even if it's something you want to do, you have to really focus and understand that sometimes this takes a little longer than we think. And this is what I think is fascinating because there are three things that matter when you're really working towards modifying your behavior and you're possibly somewhere in the middle of it. Like I am right now with my 42 days. I have to recognize that at 42 days, I'm inside the process of becoming focused on I will choose to do automatically eventually. And I want it to feel more automatic in the first or at the end of this process. But right now, it's feeling quite different still. I also have to understand that sometimes complexity of even changing a simple behavior, such as having more water after breakfast, or like me, letting go of refined sugar, that this isn't automatic and that you really have to focus initially for a longer period of time before it really becomes something that is an automatic behavior in your life. I want this to be a behavior because when I think about what I'm confronted with, 3/4 of what we see in our supermarkets has sugar added in it. So this is quite more important to me than just having an extra glass of water when I wake up. Because truthfully, I want to let go of what I think is one of the largest things that contributes to our health not going the way we want it to go. I also have to recognize that missing one day doesn't really affect the process. Now, granted, I don't think I've really missed a day, but guess what? I have had some maple syrup, not a lot. And I did have some honey, I think, on a piece of toast because I really am a person of habit when it comes to eating toast. It's very hard to give up honey on your toast. So I'm I haven't done it very often, and I don't feel like it really derailed me, but I just can't do the all or nothing thing. I have to have something because let's face it, if not, my poor emotional eater inside of me should be mad. So I have to really think I'm in the process of heading towards those 66 days so that I can feel like I can be someone who automatically really doesn't embrace as much refined sugar as I would like to, just in general, because I'm a donut lover. Now, somewhere around week 4, I think I happened that I wasn't imagining, but I did feel like fruits began tasting much sweeter. I got a lot more dessert flavorfulness out of these cherries that came in season. Oh my God, those Rainier cherries, they were irresistible. But I had to really control myself because when I saw how much sugar was in like 10 or 15 of them, I was like, oh my God. Because I am trying to, even with a little bit of maple syrup or a little bit of honey, I'm still working to stay below like 15 grams or 10 grams of sugar a day. That's not easy in our culture. I'm starting to feel like having some cherries. That feels very delightful. Roasted carrots are delicious. They have this very sweet flavor. I really was surprised. I put them in the oven with a little olive oil and a little pepper. I mean, that red pepper flakes. There is a very interesting research that has been done about this issue of our taste buds. Paul Wise and his colleagues at the Monell Center, they ran a 5-month study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition on healthy subjects, and they matched them into 2 groups. One group substantially cut out simple sugars like me. The others just ate normally. Every month, everyone rated the vanilla puddings or the raspberry beverages that they were given by the study team with a range of sugar concentrations. Month 1, both groups said no difference. Month 2, the low sugar group started rating the low sugar pudding as more intensely sweet. By month 3, they were rating the low sugar pudding 40% sweeter than the control group. So that really tells you how much our taste buds are influenced by how often we give ourselves things that are overtly sweetened, like they are showing up in our grocery store. So that's a fascinating thing to understand, that we have a lot of wiggle room when it comes to our palate. We really need to understand that there is this potential for us to retrain our taste buds to enjoy more the natural flavors and concentration of sugar that we find in vegetables or fruits than we normally would, because we're not indulging as frequently in things that have added sugar to them, like we find in so many packaged products. It's really amazing. And it takes about 4 to 5 weeks, which is really what I'm experiencing. And the other thing that's really changed my mind to understand how slowly this process goes is that I'm really allowing my palate to reset. And it really does change so much about what it is that tastes good to me. And I'm getting a little pickier, which is funny. I was pretty picky before this, but now I'm becoming a little more picky about how much something is pleasantful to taste, even in the low sugar kinds of ideas. I really want something that has a really full body taste. So you really need to start to understand that it takes a while. For as you are getting introduced to things and letting your palate cleanse, you're going to find that something that you barely thought as sweet at the beginning, you feel is overtly sweet to the point you can't eat it. And that's where I've found myself, which I find amazing. I like some of these no sugars, or what they call fructose, not fructose. It's those allulose or those chobanis that have the fake sugar in it, which I'm blanking on right now. I can't eat them anymore. They're too sweet. I don't enjoy them. This kind of fake sugar flavor, I'm really finding that I don't like it. So it's really interesting now at 42 days that I'm seeing that it can be adapting my own sense of taste, my own sense of what gives me a sense of satisfaction, and that I'm not wanting so much sugar as I had in the past. So I think it's so fascinating to see this, although it's my brain that really gives me the problem because of my emotional eating. What is interesting is there is a really beautiful study about the complexities of this. And I think it's very fascinating because of how they designed the study. Researchers followed for 49 consecutive days. And every single day, participants rated their stress and their emotional eating. And they also collected their cortisol from their hair for an even larger understanding of the biological measures for stress. And they found out two things. Women reported more emotional eating when their average stress across those days was higher. That's the between person effect. But they also ate emotionally on specific days when their stress was higher than their own personal average. That's what they call the within person effect. So there's the comparison between the two groups. And then you compare yourself to your own. This is the within person. So you look at your own, what your average is. And then when things are higher for you, that's when the daily stress was a predictor of emotional eating more strongly than major life stress. So I think stress is something we all need to pay attention to. And what is it that drives our everyday stress? And what is it for me that makes me want to fall back on is eating as a coping mechanism? I think when I was younger, it's something that possibly was easy to go and sneak some cookies or to go and get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and eat it. It was those types of things. Or if someone had made some cake, go get a little extra cake. Those were the types of things when I was a kid as a stressor, that if I was under stress. So we really need to understand, what is it that is our ordinary stress? And then what is it that drives us to have this higher, more reactive, stressful days? Because sometimes, even with the big stress, we won't go to eating directly. And maybe if we have, I think it depends. For me, stress is something that's very different for different reasons. And I think that's where we have to learn and understand ourselves and what drives our stress and why, what is it that maybe gives you more emotional eating triggers. I think I have always had an issue around triggers when it was about maybe my own perception of success or failure or follow through, or my judgment of who I am and where I'm at in my life. Those things, which are something that I could probably choose to think differently about, that for some reason I get stuck in a loop and I'm suddenly stressing out for no reason. And that's when I'm triggered to be eating emotionally. So understanding your stress is going to be key for success towards any behavior trying to change. And changing my sense of what it is that triggers me is really where I want to go. So there is a very interesting review in the Journal of Eating Behaviors that was published in 2014 by Catterman and their colleagues. And they looked at a group of 14 studies where mindfulness meditation was the primary intervention. It was not an add-on to a diet program. They focused on meditation effectively decreasing triggering eating and emotional eating, whether it's binging or emotionally eating, people who had a history of those behaviors. And the evidence for this was mixed. Didn't consistently create weight loss, but what it did do was it helped these individuals to perhaps manage more about what was going on with their thinking than it was about what was going on with their bodies. So it may not make you eat less, the mindfulness meditations, but it may make your choices of what you do choose to eat to be more nutritious. And that's what I have found. I've had choices where instead of falling back on some kind of sugary something to eat, I'm now eating something that has some protein, like a protein drink. I bought these new plant-based proteins to drink with almond milk as a fallback. And frankly, that has really helped me. Now, am I going to see weight loss? I don't think so. I'm one of those people that even if I'm eating like 16 or 1700 calories, it's not easy for me to see weight loss. I have to be eating more around 13 and 1400 calories to see weight loss. So I know that my weight loss is slow right now, and that's okay. I'm cool with that. I'm 55 pounds down, and I know that these last 10, 15 pounds are going to be very slow. Whatever it takes to focus on what is your body telling you? And I think that's what the mindfulness meditation practice does. And for me, what I've chosen to do is when I come home after the day's over, I lay down and do a couple of mindfulness practices that are ones that I enjoy. I either sit still and breathe and do my mindfulness practice, or I'll lay down and breathe. And frankly, it's really very rewarding. It helps me focus and center on where I am physically. It allows me to let go of the day and anything that may have been stressful about it, and maybe focus and concentrate on what's happening inside myself. So there are key things that you can think about, and that's what I'm going to be thinking out for the next 40 days. Is I need to name what I'm feeling before I choose to eat something. I need to name, am I tired? Am I lonely? Am I mad? Am I bored? Am I just not knowing? I can't sleep? Or what is it? Name it. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm also going to make notice of what time of day is it that I feel this sensation of suddenly wanting to eat emotionally. When is it that I think these things show up? Is it late at night? Or is it right before bed, or when? And maybe I can see some kind of sense of pattern of what I'm thinking about. And maybe I can do some journaling and uncover what is it that I'm focused on that's giving me such a desire to reward myself with a treat or eat something. I think I also have to think about how can I maybe give myself something that feels very tasty, like I bought those cherries for several days in a row. Maybe I need to figure out what I can do. Go ahead and try this cheesecake with blueberries that has limited sugar in it. See how that tastes, and maybe that'll feel like a treat. And I really want to give myself, and I hope you will too, if you decide to do some type of a modification of a behavior or that you want to do for 90 days. I think it's my consistency that counts. Even if I were to miss a day or mess up a day or maybe have too many tablespoons of maple syrup one day or a little more honey than I should, I don't see that as a real catastrophe. I think that my consistency about really letting go of refined sugar is really what is key. So here I am at day 40, and I'm looking forward to when I'm going to be at day 84. And I know that the average, these studies say, is 66 days is when you really start to see how your body and who you are comes a little more automatic. So I've made peace with this issue having to be still front and center. And I'm here now, and I'm recognizing that I'm going to have more of these feelings about wanting cookies and wanting cake and releasing it and letting it go, or figuring out a way I can have. I saw this one recipe of almond flour with maple syrup. Maybe I have to make an almond flour maple syrup cookie so that I'll have something that will somehow satisfy this crazy sweet tooth that I have that I'm working towards letting go. So I do know that I'm grateful that how delicious fruit is tasting. I am so grateful about how delicious some of the vegetables and just all the food that I'm eating has a little more intense taste. So if you decide that you want to explore this for yourself, I think it's worth it, whether it's sugar, wine, doom scrolling, or whatever your version of letting go of something or exploring behavior that you feel doesn't give anything to you. How's it going for you? What made you decide to do it? Tell me this in your comments. I would really love to know what you're working with and how you're looking towards the best version of who you are. Remember, there's only one of you, and that's what's precious. And to make sure that you have the very best version of who you are that takes you into your 80s and 90s is the goal, right? So I'll see you next week. And please subscribe, push the like button, or share. It would be magnificent to have a discussion about all the things that you're working on to make yourself the best version of who you are every single day. Bye-bye.
So thank you so much for joining me at Healthy by George. I hope you found the information inspiring and that it encourages you on your wellness journey. Because remember, your body, your well-being are a most precious gift, and every tiny action taken daily can make a huge difference. I hope the information here is educational purposes and is not meant to replace your medical care. See your doctor and talk about what works for you. If you enjoyed today's content, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me continuing creating content that inspires and empowers you to live your best life. Goodbye for now, and join me again at the next Healthy by George.